David Tulis. A one-sentence dismissal order Friday from the Alabama Supreme Court is followed by 169 pages of arguments and analysis of the legal chaos that Obergefell versus Hodges has brought to American jurisprudence. That is the pro-gay decision, the pro-Poofter opinion that came out of the High Court in June of last year, 2 years after an earlier decision, the Windsor case, said that that case was going to be decided on the rights of the states, the authority of the states to determine marriage, and the Windsor ruling overturned the Defense of Marriage Act because that act, a federal law, it impinged on the consciences of the individual states for each state to decide on its own the definition of marriage. So the states' rights theory supported one decision out of the High Court in Washington, and 2 years later, another decision, Obergefell, decided that states' rights don't matter, that states and their peoples don't have any democratic say in the definition of marriage, and we, the federal government, take this authority to ourselves. We now define marriage, and we pretend to vacate in every state marriage statutes, marriage rules, marriage conventions, which define marriage as being, very simply, between one man and one woman. Friday, out of Alabama, came an opinion, or a series of opinions, a series of really fine essays about marriage and about the idea of states regulating marriages. And there's a secret subtext, a text hidden behind the text, which even the best of judges, Roy Moore, offers as an analysis, and that is one that I would say shocks the true constitutionalists, such as me, your host, David Tulis. I'm shocked that Judge Moore and others would say that gay marriage does not exist because, or the gay rights don't exist because they're not enumerated in the Constitution. Well, the Constitution does not pretend to enumerate all rights. There are thousands and thousands of rights that are not enumerated there. Of course, the High Court has created supposedly rights to kill your baby in 1973 with Roe versus Wade, and here with Obergefell, you have a right to marriage, and that is. But that's not the finding of a right. That's not an attempt to enumerate a right. Those are really federal efforts to demolish the authority of the people through their states to govern themselves. Those aren't the finding of real rights. Those are simply the prohibition by that court of defending the unborn or defending marriage. A real right, of course, is something that you have personally and is unalienable to you individually. These decisions are not really about rights. They're about intergovernmental affairs, destroying states and enhancing the federal power. They're not really about rights. They're not the finding of rights under penumbras of the Constitution and so on. They are opinions that enhance the federal power and diminish and really destroy the states and their so-called sovereignty, their integrity, their self-government, and the self-government of their people through their state legislatures and their executive branches. So Judge Moore and Judge Bolin and others in their writings, their 169 pages of writings about marriage, make an able defense. As I say, they accept in a way the premise of the modern federal nationalist that rights don't exist unless they're enumerated. That's simply false. Rights exist without being enumerated. On the other hand, they make an able defense of what we could say is the biblical and moral nature of reality, of legal reality. And there's one other secret subtext that these texts offer, which again I would say would shock the real constitutionalist, and that would be that the state has authority over marriage. I would say that if anyone has authority over marriage, as far as a political force-bearing entity, it would be a state, not the federal government. But I would challenge even that premise, even the idea that the state has authority over marriage. I would say, well, no, marriage does not belong to states. It does not belong to Alabama. It does not belong to Tennessee or more specifically, it does not belong to those fictive corporations called the state of Alabama or the state of Tennessee. These are, of course, our corporations. They are fictions that we all agree to. They are the state behind the government, if you will. We have Tennessee government in the legislature and the branches, and then we have the state of Tennessee or the state of Alabama. That is the fictive sovereignty, if you will, that the government serves, that the government pretends to represent, government being the face of that fictive entity, the state of Tennessee or the state of Alabama. So what's happened is that the states of Alabama, the states of Tennessee, have taken through the legislative action marriage unto themselves, and they have stolen it from you. You, my listener, are a victim of Alabama state government, the state of Alabama. If you live in Alabama, if you live in Tennessee, you are the victim of the state of Tennessee, which since at least the late 1700s has regulated marriage and controlled marriage, mostly with an eye to keep blacks in their place and to prevent interracial marriage, marriages across the racial line, and of course marriages that are between men and women, but across the racial line. These are anti-miscegenation statutes. They arise from a desire to keep the races separate, but that nonetheless they do reflect a biblical, or I would say a godly order, because men and women are in view. In Alabama, men and women are in view, and in Tennessee. My name is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. There are momentous things happening around the South, and these texts are very important. And I think we need to understand what they're saying, and what we want to ask ourselves the question: what do we do? What do we do? I think there is such laxity of morality here in Tennessee and in Chattanooga, and especially among Christian people who are professing Christians. Their morality is very lax, and I think their understanding of their claim on God's gifts is also lax. It's very, 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 very careless. That people are not careless about what God has given each man and each woman as regards to marriage. And so we as Christian people, we're not jealous of God's prerogatives, God's sovereignty. I was working last night on memory work with my son, and we were reviewing. He's already memorized the Westminster Shorter Catechism, and so we're doing review. And at age 13, review is almost harder than learning these questions and answers in the original. But the question we worked on last night, and I don't have the answer here in front of me, is what is required in the third commandment? Which the third commandment says, "Thou shalt not abuse the name of the Lord," right? And the answer to that question is that we are to maintain a holy reverence of God's names, titles, attributes, ordinances, word, and works. There are 6 things that a man who fears God will do as regards his name. Well, one of them is God's ordinances. Another one is God's name. And in other words, you can't abuse any of those things. For example, you can't say GD the Yankees, okay? Because if you do, you're taking an attribute of God, the power to damn, and you are making light of it. You're making a light usage, a flippant usage of your dislike of Yankees. Okay, so you can't say GD the Yankees, because you're taking from God his power to damn them, right? God himself will damn them, and I think he is damning them already. But you can't lightly use that attribute under the third commandment. Well, these are commandments that are given to God by God to men for their benefit, right? For their edification. It's also the means by which men are judged, by which families are judged, cities are judged as well, nations, empires. They're all judged in terms of these commandments. In other words, if they obey these commandments long term, they will attain capital and longevity and years, right? If they disobey them, they will be invaded, they will be overturned, they will fall into the pits of their own making. And so we have in these texts by the Alabama judges a very good analysis of the results of lawlessness. And I know the question that you ask is, well, what do we do? What can we do? Well, I think there has to be a popular understanding of what these Obergefell versus Hodges decisions mean. And they are indeed lawless. They are indeed rulings and opinions that esteem the federal power. They are antichrist. We talk about the antichrist as a single person, right? In the Baptist church, there's the idea of the coming antichrist as if it was one megalomaniac who controls the world. Well, there are many antichrists according to the scriptures, and there are many antichrists in substance, right? That would be, for example, Obergefell versus Hodges, the opinion written by Justice Kennedy. It is an antichrist decision. It is against him entirely, against his government entirely, against his attributes and his ordinances and word and works entirely, as Judge Moore points out. But what do we do? That's a question that I keep coming back to, and I know it short circuits the argument that we want to make. And I think the short answer is that there has to be, here in Chattanooga and elsewhere, there has to be a revival of Christian jurisprudence. And that is to say, an interest of Christian people, A, in God's law, and B, in God's law as it applies to men and their civil institutions, their sheriffs, their police departments, their courts, their legislatures, and their executive branches. There's very, very little interest within Christendom in these areas of government. There is a good deal of interest in self-government, I would suppose. In Christendom, listen to Christian radio, for example, or watch Christian sermons on Sunday morning, as my aged mother does. She doesn't go to church, but she watches sermons on television. Almost all the emphasis of modern preaching has been about the individual, your individual holiness, right? Your personal walk with God, dealing with struggles, and so on. These are all in a personalistic nature. There's no sense that Christendom applies to the larger realm. There's no sense that Christendom applies to the arts, to laws, to warfare, to medicine, to the university. There's no sense really from Christendom that the university should do a certain thing, right? It should be a university because there is one God and one reality and one creation, right? That's what's called the university. Instead, we have the alternative, the multiversity, which comes out of humanism and postmodernism, and you have simply political correctness and chaos. There's pure chaos academically. It is irrationalism at its highest. There is no intellectual pursuit of anything, hardly it seems. And if there is, it is purely pragmatic and with a very short-term perspective. Well, Christendom is going to be revived by Christian people living out godly lives, I would suggest. And that takes place on Sunday, but also every day in the week. There should be a Christian interest in policing. There should be a Christian interest in marriage. And I think we're not going to have a return to moral government until there is that revival. And that's not something any one minister can do, really, or any one individual, any one spokesman or writer can do. It is a work of God by the power of the Holy Spirit, as your minister would tell you yesterday, right? If you had gone to church yesterday, that's what your minister would have said. These are developments in the hands of the Holy Spirit, the third person of the Trinity. But still, what is the solution? What is the solution to what we'll hear from Judge Moore and even a critic of Judge Moore, Judge Bolin in Alabama? What is what can we do? And the answer is, in a nutshell, it is a return to local economy in the free markets. And part of that return to local economy concept is self-government. In other words, you exercise a constitutional right, a constitutionally protected right, as our correspondent Jay Hirsch points out. There's a difference between those two words, a constitutional right versus a constitutionally protected right. I like the second phrasing better, as he does, because it tells you that you have a right, is protected by the Constitution, and you, my listener, need to exercise that right, as we try to here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And for example, in marriage, if your daughter is about to get married and she marries under statute, you are going to have the reforms in your family's case. You're going to have to wait till the next generation, because you are stuck in the old paradigm, the paradigm of state authority over marriage. Why would you have her marry under the license of the state of Tennessee or Alabama? Why would you do that? Especially since that license also, the people that allow that license also allow two men to get married. Why? What does a license mean anyway? If the state can allow two men to engage in a crime, which is sodomy. Sodomy is a crime, according to Judge Moore in his excellent analysis. It is a crime against nature. It is an evidence of moral turpitude. How can you, with your daughter getting married, have her apply for marriage license under a system that also licenses two dudes to get together in marriage? Why would you want to get a piece of paper that is so meaningless, that has been effectively deconstructed? Well, you do that out of a habit of thought, but you're not really thinking. You're not really thinking biblically. I would say you're not really thinking, if you don't have the Bible as your guide, constitutionally, which says you have a right to marry. It is a creational right, and those states regulate marriage under statute. You have a foundational and fundamental right to marry. So what I'm arguing for is terrifically a minority opinion. It is a minority opinion that is so little held that there's no hope of there being a reform in this direction for probably 2 or 3 or 4 generations. That is to say, 100 years, right? Maybe sooner. But I think we are going to be living in this caterwauling public policy realm of state-regulated marriage, where we are just thrown about, and we are humiliated. I think it is humiliating to marry under a license now. It is a humiliation for you, my listener, to have your son or daughter apply to the state of Tennessee, apply to Bill Knowles, our county clerk, who issues licenses for the 2 dudes and the 2 girls, and also to your son and his female sweetheart, right? They're all the same to him. What is the value of his permission when they're all the same to him, I ask you? Well, I'm making it difficult for you. I know, and I'm putting you in a bad position. Is it where I'm painting you into a corner and not giving you a way out? Well, the way out, I would say, is lifting yourself against the force of gravity on the power of the Constitution and your constitutional rights. You have a right to marry. It is a foundational, fundamental right. It comes from God himself directly. Marriage existed before state. Marriage existed before the church, right? It existed before the nation of Israel was formed, right? People married and they made their covenants before either of these 2 major institutions, the ministry of grace on one hand, the ministry of the sword on the other. You have a right to marry. So let's think in terms of exercising constitutional rights, but not just there, not just in marriage, but on and in other points as well. We're brought to you by Ray's Plumbing. Call Ray for your needs, whether repair or construction. His number is 421-6341. That's 421-6341. Ray's Plumbing, and out of Middle Valley. He'd be glad to serve you. Make sure you call him. Make sure you tell him that you heard his commercial on our station, the very funny bit of doggerel about Ray's Plumbing. And also, we're brought to you by P5, the Prepper Store on East Brainerd Road. The unique thing there is an aquaponics system that lets you grow food and have fish for food in the same system, the same self-circulating, self-supporting system. That's an aquaponics system. Find out about that from the P5 Prepper Store, helping you be more durable. Also with multi-tools, severe weather gear, tactical gear, preparedness goods. Proper planning prevents poor preparedness. That's P5 on East Brainerd Road, behind the just next to the Deuce and a Half truck there up on the hill. If you're going east towards Appleton, you'll see it there on the right, the big military truck with a sign for P5, the Prepper Store. Make sure you stop by and ask about the specials. There are specials, and really the best thing about P5 are the classes that are offered that put you in good stead. So what I want to get to is the important comments by Judge Moore and his colleague on the Alabama Supreme Court bench, in which they analyzed the chaos in law. There is a chaos in law, and I think we need to start thinking about going back to common law reality. I think it is the de facto reality. What's happened is common law has been displaced by a superstructure of states, modern states. Tennessee is one of them, Alabama, and the other, and of course the federal government. Its whole world of fictions, its whole world of sort of pseudo-reality in which we all live and breathe and have our being. We think it's real, but it is based in many, many instances on pure pretense, just the purest pretense. And we as gulls believe it. We fear, we move, we jump when we're told. And there is underneath it often just purely arbitrary claims outside of authority, outside of any lawful grant of authority. Well, this is David Tulis. If it's going on in the Chattanooga, in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio. We think that near is better than far, small is better than big, and simple than complex. And down in the footnotes, where the fleas struggle in 6-point type, right? The scimitar and javelin, we've got personal is better than corporate and physical than abstract. My name is David Tulis. I'm the very mild-mannered editor of Nooganomics.com. Nooganomics.com. Find out about what happened on my outing with my wife, Jeanette, 2 days out of town in a cabin. Find out what happened.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After a briefly chilly start, expect partly cloudy and mild weather for your Monday. Highs back into the upper 60s. Tonight, not as cool. Lows upper 40s. For Tuesday, a beautiful day. Lots of sunshine. Spring-like highs, lower 70s. Continue dry and warm through Wednesday. Did you know your car talks to you? Are you listening? All those beat vibrations and light-up icons are your car's way of communicating to help you be a safer driver. Learn more at mycardoeswhat.org. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Need more of your tax money back faster? EJPelton.com. Save time and money now. EJPelton.com. You wouldn't want to go to a dance by yourself, so why dance with the IRS alone? EJPelton.com. Get more of your money back faster now. EJPelton.com. For you and your business. EJ Pelton Tax Resolution and E-Filing Services. You earned it. Now keep more of your money. EJPelton.com. Offices in Brainerd and Soddy. EJPelton.com.
Yeah, I'm the tax man.
Severe Weather Awareness Week, the 28th through the 5th. P5 Preparedness has weather radios only $19.95. At P5 Preparedness, weather radios are only $19.95 for a limited time only and a limited quantity. You need to get there now. Weather radios, $19.95.
P5 Preparedness on East Brainerd between Gun Barrel and I-75. Look for the Green Army truck, 423-602-2175. Look for us on Facebook.
I want money, lots and lots of money. I want to buy in the sky.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
Money, lots and lots of money. I want to buy in the sky.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders squaring off in last night's debate in Flint on CNN after Sanders won in Maine. They argued over the economy, among other issues, but agreed on the Flint water crisis.
President Sanders would fire anybody who knew about what was happening and did not act appropriately.
And Clinton adding,
I would have a full investigation, determine who knew what when, and yes, people should be fired.
They face each other in tomorrow's Michigan primary. Marco Rubio takes his first GOP primary, Puerto Rico.
He did win the Minnesota caucuses, but he's still very much behind, and it's a really important week for him. He wants to make sure that he gets himself set up to go and win Florida a week from this coming Tuesday.
Fox's Carl Cameron. There are 4 GOP contests tomorrow. The U.S. and South Korea have begun their annual defensive springtime war games, the largest ever staged. Fox News. We report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. 3 students from 3 schools arrested in 3 different incidents. A student from East Ridge High School was arrested on Friday after authorities say he assaulted a teacher and then threatened to get a gun and shoot several people at the school. In the second incident, the sheriff's office says that there was a note found on the floor of a hallway at Washington Alternative School making violent threats. 1 suspect was arrested. And in the third case, a note was discovered on a bathroom wall in the girls' restroom at Udoa High School, and the suspect has been arrested in that case as well. A second suspect has been arrested in the Ocoee Street shootout, which injured a 14-year-old boy on February the 21st. Gary Cross had multiple warrants out for his arrest. He was finally hunted down by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. He was booked on outstanding warrants at the Hamilton County Jail. The first suspect, Dominique Cal, had already been in custody for several weeks following the broad daylight gun battle. Senators Lamar Alexander and David Perdue took a moment today to remember the legacy of former First Lady Nancy Reagan, who passed away. She was 94. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
My wife Jeanette and I spent a couple of nights out of town in Helen, Georgia, and Helen is a town just south of Nantahala State Park that reconfigured itself to be a sort of Germanic Eden. It was a change voted on by the town fathers, inspired by a former soldier who had been in Austria, stationed in Austria during World War II, and had seen many undisturbed alpine towns, and said, we can revive ourselves and change our fortunes by going German. And it did. We stayed in a cabin that had some faults. And for example, there was a gas heater log in a grate that wouldn't start. When I was shaving, I found that the drain wouldn't open. And even though I looked under the sink to try to fix the problem, I couldn't do it until finally I got a knife and sort of screwed out the drain blocker. We had to for shaving, had to use the second bathroom in that cabin. Well, and then the toilet wouldn't flush. It kept running and the tank wouldn't fill. I went inside the tank to try to adjust the little flapper. It didn't seem to have any effects. And then finally, there weren't any blankets in this cabin worth anything, and so we had to run the heat really high to stay warm overnight. I think generally you sleep better if you set the thermostat at 65 and get under blankets. So those were 4 faults when I called the administration the next day, and I mentioned the 4th thing. She is what I called an early review of that rental company. She sort of cringed. I could hear it through the line. And she said, is there a 5th? And I said, no, ma'am, there's not a 5th. And she said, well, we'll get someone on it right away. And I said, okay, fine. Well, when we came back from a hike, from an outing, a lunch in a restaurant called the Bodensee, which is a lake between Switzerland and Germany, very good meal that cost the two of us $40. It was worthwhile, and we enjoyed ourselves greatly. We came back late afternoon, and nothing had been done. So the question I have is, well, what do I do now? So if I'm going to write a review, it'll be well classed past the time that any complaint could be made against us as unhappy patrons. And Jeanette said, well, these aren't deal breakers. These are just little annoyances. And certainly we've enjoyed ourselves. It's a very nice cabin. Otherwise, it's owned by some kind of family or individual, and the rental company just oversees its use, right? That's all it's doing. It's not owned by the rental company. But, I'm told in Proverbs that he who covers over an offense promotes love, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. I'm also told that hatred stirs up dissension, but love covers all wrongs. A man's wisdom gives him patience. It is to his glory to overlook an offense. Those are all Proverbs in chapters 10, 17, and 19. Those are individual verses. And I looked those up and I said, okay, well, do those verses control this relationship? Or do I write a review, not with harsh words or anything, just stating the facts that would be a warning to the next customer? And so that's what I'm asking myself about. What is the right thing? We have with the sharing on the internet, you do a Google search for the cabin rental company, let's say, or a cabin rental company, or any other provider of services or goods, and there you'll find reviews. If I were going to write a review, it would have been for this year number 4. Earlier ones said, I contacted the after hours line. It was told by the manager she would be back. I sat in my car in the cold for an hour with 2 children, one of which was only 2 years old. She never called back, left us waiting, and we could not get into the cabin. I had to rent 2 hotel rooms for the night. There was a very steep hill to get to the cabin, and the provider made no amends for this very disgruntled customer. They were extremely condescending and unprofessional. No partial refund, not even a single apology for the inconvenience. A second party writes. And the third one says, the hot tub was broken, the floor was dirty, the pool table was broken and put back together with screws. So not a good time and pressed way too much. Only thing nice was the lady at the office. Well, we met the lady at the office too. And when I left a tip for the housekeeper, whom I know is probably a hard-pressed person who earns a little bit of money cleaning up after people like myself and straightening out the bed and checking the sink and so on. And so I left her a tip not to discourage her. And so should I write a negative review? That is my question. So if you write a negative review, it's not done in malice. It's not done libelously. It's done simply as reporting to other customers in what's called, we call that whole process reputational feedback mechanism. Am I going to help establish the reputation of this place with the fifth review in the negative? Is that an important message for the provider of that service? Maybe so. Maybe with enough negative reviews, that person will say, "Boy, I'm in this business of renting cabins. I really better straighten my act out. I've got to improve my processes. I need to have a consultant maybe to advise me how to improve what I'm doing here, renting cabins in Helen, Georgia." And so what should I do? Should I forgive, or should I be useful in the sharing economy? I wonder now, what do you think I should do? Well, these are questions, among others, that I raised at Nooganomics.com. I'm the editor of that website. It's the website for the man who matters, and I'm the very mild-mannered editor. So you see, writing a negative review is a cause of distress for me. I'm so mild-mannered that I think, well, there are moral issues here. It's not just a simple unhappy consumer writing a message to a corporation. It's not that simple. Or is it? Well, you can put in your 2 cents worth. Go to Nooganomics.com and read my work. I am the editor of that website. No, it's not popular. It's not a popular website because very few people, I think, in the end matter. And the things we look at are ones that compel thinking about the state of our county 20, 30 years out. What do we want to do? Now, Joan Garrett McLean at the Chattanooga Times Free Press has a similar goal in 3 pages of type, actually 4 pages of type that were published in the Sunday editions of the Chattanooga Times Free Press. She is a writer given a great deal of latitude to analyze, in this case, poverty. And she ends her essay in the Sunday editions of the paper by saying poverty is a very difficult thing to solve. She gives a lot of time discussing the Met-Min ministries and people who work there, including a Covenant College graduate from the Reform perspective, working here at a very cheerful liberal ministry. Joan says, poverty polarizes people, especially in Chattanooga, a gateway to the Deep South. It flames debates related to politics, race, class, taxes, wages, economics, rights, morals, sex, marriage, childbearing, and faith. But no single cut, hike, policy, or political party is going to fix things. A survey of efforts across the country teaches us that. She says, opening escape hatches for the poor demands a time-intensive and expansive commitment of human compassion and cooperation. Does that sound like local economy and free markets to you? She says it demands real community bonds at a time when community was a wobbly concept, studies show. And change, when or if it comes, could spring from a catalyst or a catastrophe, the experts seem to be saying. She's saying, as others are saying when discussing the problem of young men in gangs, is that it takes individual compassion and individual acts of charity, individual cooperation. These are, again, local economy and the free market. And one reason we talk about local economy and the free market here in Chattanooga is because these things are the first victim of the modern state. The modern state, the modern corporation, eviscerate community. Look at the loss of farming neighborhoods, farming districts, and family farms across the state. We used to have a couple thousand dairies in Tennessee. I think now we have about 400. And that has come about from the industrialization of the milk market, right? The milk market, the milk farming world has become a system, an industrial agricultural system. And so there's a loss of community on that point. Even in Chattanooga, there are many subsidies, there are many programs that encourage the kind of poverty that is most noted by the men people covered by Joan Garrett McLean. The single mom with children. These are the great category of victims brought about by no-fault divorce. Again, the first reconstruction of marriage in Tennessee with no-fault divorce. When your husband can throw you down and throw you apart from cause, right? You don't have to have a cause for divorce. You don't have to have infidelity or abuse as a cause. You can just cite incompatibility, and both parties agree to it. And so you have hundreds, thousands of women and children marooned economically, and the family unit destroyed by statute. So the objections that we make to interventions are against the biggest source of interventions in the marketplace, in the family. And that is the state, the modern court. You think I'm making that up? Well, the Times Free Press has done in 2 days in a row, I'd say, sterling public service here in Chattanooga with a story by Shelley Bradbury, a story that kind of grew bigger than it probably was initially intended to be. But Shelley got a tour of the jail, and it shows that the jail is a hellhole. It is a hellhole in Hamilton County. And I would say, no, the solution to that is not to have private corporations contracted to build jails and run jails for profit. That is not the solution. That is not the solution. That is the skimming economy, corporate capitalist solution, but that is not the solution to justice. The solution is to have more equitable courts and more just courts. And you say, well, what's justice? What is truth? Pilate asked the Lord there as he interrogated him. And he just as well could have asked, what is justice? Well, justice is a system of government, a system of law, the use of the sword, right? Justice is essentially the use of the sword against the wicked. That's justice. Justice is not able to make things right. Justice is not able to restore childhood. It's not able to bring education to a better footing. It is not able to help single women make their way in the marketplace with children awaiting her attention. Justice can't serve any of those causes, right? But we think it does. We think somehow that it does. This reporter made a tour with an official named Fowler, Joe Fowler, Chief of Corrections of Hamilton County Jail. And the catcalls that came in this tour are really remarkable, and they fill the first few paragraphs of Shelley Bradbury's story. That's in the Saturday editions. The headline is Behind Bars Without the Basics. And no toilet paper in here, man. One inmate, he shouts from a cell. In that cell are 15 men. The cell has no beds, she says, just a cement bench built into the wall, a toilet and a sink. So if you have to have a bowel movement in that room, there are 15 people, and you're one of 15. There are 14 other people watching you lower your trousers and sit on that pot and burp your problem out. When Fowler approached, some men were sleeping side by side on the floor with just blankets, no mats. Some were sitting on the bench, backs against the wall, elbow to elbow. A few stood there, but there was nearly no room to walk around without stepping on someone. As Fowler walked by that cell, and then others, the men jumped to their feet. I want to brush my teeth. One man shouts. Another one says, I've been here 10 days with no shower. I swear to God. Another man hollered. Shelley Bradbury says, been here 7 days, no toothbrush. Comes another shout. Come smell me. I'll prove it. Someone else says. Well, that's a tour in a hellhole. And that hellhole is the Hamilton County Jail. And the story says that there are 505 maximum inmate. The number is 505 maximum inmates, but there were 537 people housed there Wednesday when the Times Free Press reporter had her tour, and she explains how things work there, how people are booked, and there's a very clogged system. Think about the kinds of charges that these people are under. Many of them are not common law crimes. They're paper crimes. They're crimes that have no victim. They're crimes where the victim is the state itself, the state with its peace and dignity offended by someone not showing up, not paying a fee, not having a proper documentation on a car, not having a proper documentation on a person who is using that car on the road, and many other things. There are people who are there for debt. There are people who are in debtor's prison in Hamilton County. Debtor's prison. We thought that was something hounded by writers of Charles Dickens's age. No, we have that here. We have debtor's prison in Hamilton County, and we have a hellhole, as described in the hometown newspaper, which is doing sterling service to report this situation. We're brought to you by Eric Pelton. Eric Pelton is the numbers guy here in Hamilton County. For taxpayers, he will help you keep more of what you've earned. Call Eric at 622-3156 to make an appointment. That number is at the Brainerd office. There's a Saudi Daisy office as well, just north of the Food City. E.J. Pelton Company, an accounting and tax service that helps you keep more of what you've earned. Think about that. Think about the benefits of keeping more of what you've earned. We're brought to you also by Trade Bank of Chattanooga, which is the smart way to barter and to improve your cash flow. You buy and sell among businesses in Trade Bank dollars, all accounted for at the end of the month by debit card. Talk to Jürgen Mutz. Jürgen Mutz is a German with a southern twang. He's been running the Trade Bank franchise here for 20 years, and he knows everybody. A very hardworking man, helping this trade group prosper. Call Jürgen Mutz at 877-2202. Say that you heard about him on the radio, and you can mention my name, David Tulis. That would be terrific. Also, 877-2202. We want Trade Bank to really prosper, and I'd like you to see what benefits it has for you. We are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're the Colin Cowherd station. We also have Sean Hannity at 3. Colin is just at lunchtime at noon. Goes till 3. Sean Hannity after him in the evening at 6. We've got Keon Rose with a terrific sports show. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's Clutch with Keon Rose. And we've got Binary today at 11 with Russell Stroud, our news director. Tomorrow we've got Sabrina. And we've got Bruce Krebs every other Wednesday on the Entrepreneur Hour. And every Thursday here, we've got Duke Nukem at P5, the preparedness show, the Patriot Prepper program here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. There's a story about Love Shack, also in the newspaper. Love Shack is a dispenser of sexually oriented materials, but not too much, right? There's not so much material there that is sexually oriented as to run into the ordinance that prevents adult establishments from prospering in the city or the county. It's called Love Shack. It's on Highway 58. Very bright, bold advertising. There's a truck there with a gigantic Love Shack name on it. There's a billboard also at the intersection of 153 and Highway 58. The owner is Elias Marrero Jr. He did not give comment to Steve Johnson, the reporter who covered the story. Ken Smith, a council member, is getting complaints about this place. We had 20 to 30 people at a meeting, he says, and they were up in arms. This is within 500 feet of a church and residences, and it is not allowed. The story says that if you have more than 33% content in your store that's adult oriented, well, you can't open. But this store, the management of this store told the city, Philip Noblet, the deputy city attorney, that it has only 22% of retail value from adult-oriented merchandise. That would be X-rated videos, let's just say. The store sent the city a spreadsheet stating that out of 9,487 items at the Love Shack, 2,108 are adult oriented. There's a story on TV3 about a judge. His name is James Stockless, who's 67 years old. He has won. He's in Pennsylvania. He won $291 million prize while buying a lottery ticket in Florida this weekend. He had a brother that won $7 in a similar purchase. His ticket was the sole winner of the Monster Powerball lottery, but he is sharing the prize with the two friends with whom he was when he bought it. He opted for a one-time lump sum payment of $191 million and some change. The friends will take home more than $40 million each after taxes, he tells the Morning Call. And immediately this man was a spendthrift. He spent, so excited was he rented a private jet to go back to Florida to claim the money. The jet cost $3,000 an hour, and so around $20,000, he told the Morning Call. And the three men sipped champagne on board. Doesn't sound very good. Most lottery winners are men for whom the winning of millions of dollars is not a blessing, but a judgment. A judgment because it ruins their perspective. They become greedy. They become careless. They don't think in terms of helping other people, though many of them give away thousands. As here, the winner divided his booty into thirds and gave each of two friends a third of the winnings. He's very generous, but still, there are many problems that attend being wealthy. What should you do? What should you desire, my listener? Should you take part in state-sponsored gambling schemes, or should you refrain? I've always refrained myself, just on principle. And I know that there is the pragmatic argument. Well, if you don't play, you can't win. But I would say I don't intend to play, not because I'm better than you, but because I think on principle we should never put our hopes in chance or luck. Of course, there is no such thing as chance or luck. God controls. God, who is sovereign over all things, He controls the roll of the dice. He controls the appearance of numbers. He controls the short straw. The man who picks it is the winner, whether it be whether it be to replace Judas Iscariot or to go to war. There are many times in the scriptures where the Urim and the Thurim are used to discern God's will. Other times there are things such as straws. So these are not mysteries. God really controls these things. And so I would say, since God is in charge of all things, God can certainly make you, my listener, prosper through your own efforts, through your caring about other people, taking on the idea of service. And that is, of course, the capitalist impulse. The capitalist impulse is not, I want to make as much money as I can, though no doubt there are people written up in the Wall Street Journal every day who are doing just that. The capitalist impulse is, it reflects God's limitations upon the world. And that is, you will take what you know, and you will take the gifts you have, the materials you have, the natural resources you have, the insight, the market knowledge, and bring benefit to your customer, whether it's repairing of equipment, whether it's software design, whether it's a new app. You are going to help people. You're going to bring them a benefit, right? It's always, your work is always about the other person. It's about the customer. Or if you're an employee, it's about your employer, your master, whose enterprise has to prosper for you to keep your job, right? You have to prosper him self-consciously, and really outside the parameters of employment. You have to kind of work beyond the servitude of employment to think on his behalf. But either way, whether you have dealings with customers directly or through the employer himself, your job is to make the other person prosper, to come out ahead. And I think that rather than have any hope in a winning like that, you should say, God, what can I do today to help somebody succeed? What can I do to help my neighbor succeed? Whether it's your neighbor or your customer, I think that's the goal. That, in fact, is the short argument for local economy. That is the short argument for the free market. We want the free market. We want people to have opportunity there. And though we have poverty, I think the free market is the way we get out of poverty. We don't get out of poverty by having a government jobs program. And I will tell you in a moment about a city jobs program that has high hopes. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
NLS 2239. What would you do with all that cash? Listen up, y'all. Ben Phillips here. Home Rate Mortgage. 805-9100. $1,200. That's how much we just put back in a Saudi Daisy family's pocket per month. All they did was pick up the phone. 805-9100. That's 805-9100. Get that quick quote now. 805-9100. HomeRateMortgage.com. NLS 2239. Do you want to achieve the American dream in 2016? Listen up, y'all. I'm Ben Phillips with Home Rate Mortgage, 805-9100. We just helped a police officer purchase his first home in East Brainerd. Now he's grilling and chilling on his back deck. The American dream. You could achieve it with no money down options. Why wouldn't you call? 805-9100, HomeRateMortgage.com.
Severe Weather Awareness Week, the 28th through the 5th. P5 Preparedness has weather radios only $19.95. At P5 Preparedness, weather radios are only $19.95 for a limited time only and a limited quantity. You need to get there now. Weather radios, $19.95.
P5 Preparedness on East Brainerd between Gun Barrel and I-75. Look for the Green Army truck, 423-602-2175. Look for us on Facebook.
When pipes drip and rot the floor, Ray sends all leaks straight to the door. To fix my pipes, he sure does plumb. Unclog my John, make shop hum. It's good old Ray, his wrench has fun. 421-6341. Your plumbing's busted, here Ray come. Call 421-6341. In crawl space low, he does yet stoop. Fixing pipe and woe to poop. Ray's the plumber, call him now. With coin but few, he'll please and how. 421-6341. It's good old Ray, a beam of sun. 421-6341. 421-6341.
Our house in the middle of our street.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at SabrinaRealty.com.
You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. A boarding house fire in Atlanta before dawn has taken at least 6 lives. Fire rescue spokesman Cortez Stafford says it's possible that more victims will be found in the ruin.
We still need to search one portion of the home to find out if there is possibly any more.
WSB's Richard Sangster reports that some of the victims may have been trapped by the flames.
There is no back door or windows to escape from in this house. And that may be why the fatalities are as high as they are. They just couldn't get out of the house.
The funeral for former First Lady Nancy Reagan is expected to take place toward the end of the week. The former First Lady will be buried next to President Reagan at the Reagan Library. CBS's Terry Okita tells us mourners began paying their respects immediately after word of Mrs. Reagan's death yesterday at the age of 94.
We saw a steady stream of mourners who did stop by the Presidential Library, and although it was closed, they still came by to bring flowers and American flags and leave notes of condolence.
We have breaking news from Washington. The Supreme Court has ruled that Alabama's top court went too far when it refused to recognize a lesbian woman's adoption of her partner's children in Georgia. Some Navy SEALs went to California Congressman Duncan Hunter to complain about a shortage of combat rifles, to the point where SEALs returning from deployments had to swap with those heading out. CBS News military analyst Mike Lyons.
Navy SEALs are perhaps one of the most resourceful groups that exists within the world. They scrounge things up. They make things happen. If they're complaining about this level of support, then this really must be a problem.
Tomorrow's Michigan primaries will be a major test for all of the presidential candidates in both parties. But as CBS's Major Garrett tells us, Donald Trump could be the one with the most to lose tomorrow and beyond.
The next 2 or 3 weeks for his campaign are going to demonstrate whether or not it's resilient enough to take on the Republican establishment, Ted Cruz, and super PACs that are now pouring a considerable fortune into first slowing him down and then derailing his approach to the nomination.
The nation's pastime could be part of diplomatic talks with Cuba. CBS's Pam Coulter has that.
There's hope that the warming relations between the two baseball-loving countries lead to an agreement that would allow Cuban players to come to the U.S. legally to play. Currently, they have to defect and often put themselves in danger at the hands of smugglers. Cuban officials hope the president's attendance at an exhibition game involving the Tampa Bay Rays in Havana advances the process, but critics say a deal would just funnel more money to the Cuban regime.
The New York Times was upset to see clues and themes from its iconic crossword puzzle in other publications. Crossword puzzle editor Will Short says the word for that is plagiarism.
To borrow or take someone else's creativity and coming up with an original theme really is not right.
The editor, who's suspected of copycatting, calls the similarities a coincidence. The Dow Industrials are down 30 points so far. This is CBS News.
Loan is a 30-year fixed-rate loan with a 1-0 lender paid by Dow. Reduced payment valid only during the first 12 months. The monthly payment during the first 12 months of your loan is based on a rate that is 1% lower than your interest rate for this loan program. Not all applicants will qualify. Rates and terms subject to change. NMLS 6606 Equal Housing Lender. Call 888-369-6455 for licensing information.
I'm Rick Arviello, CEO of New American Funding, and we have just introduced a no points, no lender fee 30-year fixed-rate mortgage at 3 5/8%, 3.57 APR, with the first full year's payment at only 2 5/8%. At New American Funding, we figured out a way to give you more of your savings right up front. Your payment at 2 5/8% fixed rate in year 1 and 3.57% APR for the remaining 29 years with 0 points and 0 lender fees. This is for purchase or refinance. Even if you just got your loan, we might be able to really save you money. Isn't it worth a 10-minute call to find out?
Call New American Funding today at 800-963-4933. That's 800-963-4933. Or simply dial pound 250 from any mobile phone. Keyword, get that rate.
Fans of a glossy British soap opera have learned what the future holds for their favorite characters. CBS News correspondent Vicki Barker.
Farewell to Downton Abbey, to the sharp-tongued Dowager Countess.
If reason fails, try force.
To rivalries upstairs, downstairs, and among siblings.
We're sisters, and sisters have secrets.
6 seasons taking the aristocratic Crawley family from 1912 to 1926.
We've all been together a long time. It's been such a long road. Can this really be the end of it?
Yes, it really is the end. Creator Julian Fellowes already has a new big-budget costume drama out on British TV. American viewers, watch this space. Vicki Barker, CBS News, London.
The CVS drugstore that was destroyed during the race riots in Baltimore after the death of Freddie Gray in police custody has been rebuilt, and it reopened yesterday with no fanfare. CVS says it decided not to wait for a ribbon-cutting ceremony because it wanted to get the store running as soon as possible. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
U.S. advertisement. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After a briefly chilly start, partly cloudy and mild weather for your Monday. Highs back into the upper 60s. Tonight, not as cool. Lows upper 40s. For Tuesday, a beautiful day. Lots of sunshine, spring-like highs, lower 70s. Continue dry and warm through Wednesday. Did you know your car talks to you? Are you listening? All those beep vibrations and light-up icons are your car's way of communicating to help you be a safer driver. Learn more at mycardoeswhat.org. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
In my weekend outing with my sweetheart Jeanette, I had time to read a little bit further in a biography, the spiritual biography of Flannery O'Connor. The name is The Terrible Speed of Mercy. And the writer, Jonathan Rogers, argues that she is fundamentally a Christian author. She is a Roman Catholic practitioner and has a series of fierce, rugged stories, very ragged stories. And let me read to you the first sentence of a story about a Protestant prophet that the author calls him Francis Marion Tarwater. And here's the first sentence. See how angry and how grieved this writer is. Francis Marion Tarwater's uncle had been dead for only half a day when the boy got too drunk to finish digging his grave, and a Negro named Buford Munson, who had just come to get a jug filled, had to finish it and drag the body from the breakfast table where it was still sitting and bury it in a decent and Christian way with the sign of its Savior at the head of the grave and enough dirt on top to keep the dogs from digging it up. That's the first sentence of a Flannery O'Connor story, The Violent Buried Away. And it is making me, as I read about her spiritual life, as she drew closer to death from lupus, a neurological degenerative disease. I'm looking forward to getting back and reading some of her stories, which I'd read as a young man, and I think really misunderstood, though I loved her very vivid and visceral dramatic descriptions and her dialogue, very Southern, very, as I say, very Gothic. This is David Tulis. I'm glad you're giving us a couple of minutes of your time. There's a story in the Times Free Press about another program in the city to help people get work, and I'm asking the basic question which we pose here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio: does another government program do we merit another government program? Do we deserve another government program? And I would say maybe not. Maybe we don't. This is under the hand of Lerone Coach Jennings. He is a city staffer now, formerly in the ministry, or he still may be in the ministry. He works at the city's Youth and Family Development Department. He says, but we're trying to tap into that lower wage earning community to help them rise up and be a part of the greater success of the city. There's a city person hired by Mr. Jennings in his department, and that's Dr. David Banks. He is the director of career development, and he will be helping people with no or few job skills get ready for work. The story in the Times Free Press says his goal is to partner with as many nonprofit groups as possible that are already serving people who need jobs. Banks wants eventually to teach leaders, there's that word again, at the nonprofits to continue the training. Many of the students of Dr. Banks are unemployed women with children. Again, we have the attack on marriage through statute, and now, of course, through Obergefell versus Hodges, the decision which brings a deconstruction of law and brings what Alabama Justice Tom Parker says is the death of the rule of law. He says the Obergefell versus Hodges destroyed the rule of law. The rule of law is dead. It is dead. He says there's another justice, Michael Bolin, and he says that Obergefell, the poofed opinion out of Washington in June, is without any constitutional basis, and yet he says, I do concede that its holding is binding authority on this court. So what's happened in Alabama, there are two things. This just in from CBS News, Radio News, is that an earlier opinion out of the Alabama High Court went too far in saying that two gays could not adopt a child. And then Friday, there was a one-sentence dismissal of all the cases that were before the court on the issues of so-called gay marriage. And but there's a division apparently among the justices as to what the dismissal means. Judge Moore, the Chief Justice, says that standing unmolested is a lower administrative rule earlier that forbade probate judges, which issue marriage licenses in that state, from issuing marriage licenses to lug-butt devotees, homosexuals who are wanting to obtain the benefits of marriage in their homosexual state. And so other judges are saying, one of the groups that is behind the litigation, API, the Alabama Policy Institute, says that the ruling, the one-page dismissal, leaves opponents to gay marriage nowhere to turn in the court system. The order effectively ends the case, says Eric Johnson, an attorney. It appears to give us no option. That's at NBCnews.com, quoting an Associated Press story. And the ruling itself, the ruling is one page, but it's followed by 169 pages of analysis of the abolition of the rule of law. And when I say, I keep wanting to talk to you, my listener, about what this means, and I think it's easier perhaps to do than just to kind of do the grinding work of reading some of these opinions and saying what's in them. I think it's important to say report what these opinions say about our situation, right? Our situation in the states vis-a-vis the national power, which has deconstructed marriage, which will have devastating long-term implications for families and for individuals. Because remember, laws, even if they're laws passed by judges, which are not supposed to make laws, but which effectively, according to every lawyer, make laws, right? Judges nowadays make laws beyond just the legislature. So you have opinions, which are just analyses that become effective laws, according to every attorney, and here every judge in the Alabama High Court says this baseless opinion, this opinion outside of authority, is law for us. In other words, it controls what we say and what we do. Chief Moore has the longest of the pages. As I said, there are 169 pages of analysis, almost all of them in the same direction. That is to say, all of them saying that in our constitutional system, the federal government has no authority to determine anything other than what the states determine. It has no subject matter jurisdiction, in other words. He says, Judge Moore says, that Obergefell has no basis in law, history, or tradition of this country. Obergefell is an unconstitutional exercise of judicial authority that usurps the legislative prerogative of the states to regulate their own domestic policy. Additionally, Obergefell seriously jeopardizes the religious liberty guaranteed by the First Amendment. He says, based upon arguments of love, commitment, and equal dignity for same-sex couples, 5 lawyers, as Chief Justice Roberts so aptly describes the Obergefell majority, have declared a new social policy for the entire country. As the Chief Justice and Associate Justices Scalia, Thomas, Alito eloquently and accurately demonstrate in their dissents, Moore says the majority opinion in Obergefell is an act of raw power with no ascertainable foundation in the Constitution itself. The majority presumed to legislate for the entire country under the guise, he says, of interpreting the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution, in reality, Obergefell presumes to amend the Constitution to create a right stated nowhere therein. That is a lawless act. I submit that our founders knew a lot more about freedom than this passage indicates. He quotes Obergefell's Kennedy, talking about the nature of injustice against gays. He says, they secure the freedoms we enjoy not in judicial decrees of newly discovered rights, but in the Constitution and amendments thereto. That a majority of the court may identify an injustice that merits constitutional correction does not dispense with the means of the Constitution has provided in Article 5 for its own amendments. So in other words, if you want to redefine marriage federally, there is no subject matter jurisdiction, but let's say you did, you would have to amend the Constitution. Although the court could suggest, Moore says, that the Constitution would benefit from a particular amendment, the court does not possess the authority to insert the amendment into the Constitution by the vehicle of a court opinion and then to demand compliance of it. And that's what happened. So you amend the Constitution because that allows for the respect of law, the law being the Constitution itself that says how it is to be changed. There's a amendment through judicial fiat is both unconstitutional and illegal. Amendment through judicial fiat breeds disrespect for the law, and it undermines the very basic notion that this country is governed by laws and not by men. That's quoting an Alabama case. Novel departures from the text of the Constitution, Moore says, by the court are customarily accompanied by pretentious language employed to conceal the illegitimacy of its actions. Justice Scalia, in his Obergefell dissent, refers to this abandonment of disciplined legal reasoning as a descent into the mystical aphorisms of the fortune cookie. And Moore quotes some of these some of the dissenting opinion in Obergefell. The opinion appeals more to emotion than law, reminding one of the 1974 song "Feelings" by Morris Albert, which begins, "Feelings, nothing more than feelings." The court's opinion speaks repeatedly of homosexuals being humiliated, demeaned, and denied equal dignity by a state's refusal to issue them marriage licenses. The majority seeks to invoke the grief, sorrow, and compassion associated with the Greek tragedy, riding a tidal wave of emotion. The ensuing tears and pathos then suffice to fertilize a new constitutional right nowhere mentioned in the Constitution itself. The court is revising the law, he says. The function of keeping the Constitution up with the times, however, has not been delegated to the court or to Congress or to the president. That function is reserved to the states. And he quotes Alexander Hamilton from the Federalist number 78. And Hamilton, for whom our county is named, by the way, we are in Hamilton County, Tennessee, named after Alexander Hamilton, the great nationalist. As opposed, right, to a great federal, we should be federalists, not nationalists. We should love the idea of federated government, of confederated government, not of unitary and national government. Those are the two distinctions, right? Unitary and national on one side, meaning absolutist and totalitarian, or at least authoritarian, as David Cook mentions it in his column about Chris Brooks's departure from town. You've got authoritarian, unitary on one side. And on the other side, where we have local economy and the free market, we have federated government limited by law, limited by statute, and limited by the usages of the people who are demanding their liberty. But of course, the problem with that image that we'll hear here in Hamilton is that the people don't want liberty. People do not want freedom and liberty. That's why we have Cook's authoritarian system. And here quoting Hamilton, until the people have, by some solemn and authoritative act, annulled or changed the established form, it is binding upon themselves collectively as well as individually, and no presumption or even knowledge of their sentiments can warrant their representatives in a departure from it prior to such an act. And Obergefell, of course, is rejecting the past and rejecting constitutional government. And it talks about new insights, right? New insight into how gays have to be protected. There is a fundamental right to marry among gays is now manifest, quoting Obergefell, rights rise to from a better informed understanding, right, of how constitutional imperatives define liberty. New insights and societal understandings. Again, these are the bases of the pro-Poofter opinion in June. And there's a discussion in Obergefell about the 14th Amendment. As we learn its meaning, right? We're learning the meaning of the 14th Amendment now as we redefine marriage. Historically, consummation of marriage, Moore says, has always involved an act of sexual intimacy that was dignified in the eyes of the law. Okay, this is marriage. Marriage is based upon a sexual act between a man and a woman. An act of sexual intimacy between two men or two women, by contrast, was considered an infamous crime against nature and a disgrace to human nature. He's quoting Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England. Homosexuals who seek the dignity of marriage must first forsake the sexual habits that disqualify them from admission to that hallowed institution. Surely more dignity attaches to participation in a fundamental institution on the terms it prescribes than to attempt to wrest its definition to serve inordinate lusts that demean its historic dignity. And here I am quoting Chief Justice Roy Moore in his opinion. There were 100 pages of opinion that he and others issued supporting a decision, a one-sentence decision to dismiss all the cases. The headline, by the way, in the Chattanooga Times-Free-Press, in the Region edition in Saturday's paper, Alabama court refuses to defy Supreme Court. That's the effect here. Though Moore says that his ban on probate judges issuing gay marriage licenses is still in place. He goes on to say that surely more dignity attaches to participate. Yeah, he says a disgrace to human nature cannot be cured by stripping the institution of holy matrimony of its inherent dignity and redefining it to give social approval to behaviors unsuited to its high station. Sodomy has never been and never will be an act by which a marriage can be consummated. He says that the Declaration of Independence has liberty as an unalienable right, and it is an endowment. Liberty is, of course, marriage is a liberty. He's pointing that out. In marriage, you have liberation. You, my listener, are liberated by marriage. Liberty is an endowment of the Creator. The God who gave us life gave us liberty at the same time, quoting Thomas Jefferson. Government exists to secure that right because liberty is a gift of God. It must be, Moore says, it must be exercised in conformity with the laws of nature and nature's God. The natural liberty of mankind consists properly in a power of acting as one thinks fit without any restraint or control unless by the law of nature. Again, quoting Blackstone, the famous English jurist. He quotes Kennedy and says that Kennedy says that at the heart of liberty is the right to define one's own concept of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. That's quoting Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania versus Casey. But the human being as a dependent creature is not at liberty to redefine reality. Instead, as the Declaration of Independence states, a human being is bound to recognize that the rights of life, the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are endowed by God. Those rights are not subject to a redefinition that rejects the natural order God has created. So men are subject to God, and it is a false definition of liberty to say that two men can marry. The Obergefell's majority's false definition of marriage, the judge says, arises in great part from its false definition of liberty. And I think here more is worth hearing. Again, separating man from his creator, the majority of the gay, in the gay opinion, plunges the human soul into a wasteland of meaninglessness where every man defines his own anarchic reality. In that godless world, nothing has meaning or consequence except as the human being desires. Man then becomes the creator of his own reality rather than a subject of the creator of the Declaration. See Romans 1:25. Identifying those who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshiped and served the creature more than the creator. This is David Tulis, and caller, you're live on the air at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. What's on your mind?
Great subject, great topic. I didn't want to call, but when you were talking, all I was hearing was blah, 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 blah. So everything you said is dicta, which means it has nothing to do with the case. And this is why we're failing in this country, our lack of understanding of law and what it really is. I mean, everybody wants states' rights, but when a state decides under their law that two guys can marry, people get upset. So, and when the state decides they're going to license you, people get upset. And people, when they license your business, people get upset. First of all, we live in a lawless country. So we have to understand that the federal government is lawless. It has been since Lincoln. So once we absorb that we've been occupied since Lincoln, then we can have a discussion. Then the next discussion is Let's talk about marriage and not licenses. It comes down to, and I'm going to repeat this 1,000 times, and I have since the 70s. A license is permission to do something that would otherwise be illegal. If the state has a process to grant permission to do something that was illegal
or a crime,
and it's New York, Tennessee must accept that. The problem is the state has no authority to grant a marriage license or a birth license. That's the problem. It's not a matter of all the stuff you're reading, which is nothing but hyperbole and dicta. The question becomes one of commerce. And in commerce, if you think the state can license something that God grants, like, can you license speech, David? Do you have a right to speech, or can the state license that? If the state can license speech, guess what? New York has to accept it, in Pennsylvania and Tennessee. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to license cars. They want to license your business. They want to license your rear end. They want to license marriage. And then when we find something morally repugnant, we don't want them to license. We go, well, that's okay because they can do it naturally. And then the court says under the Equal Protection Clause, every state has to recognize it. We're missing the point.
This is David Tulis. We're hearing a comment about the states not having authority to license marriage. That is my own argument. And the caller apparently had not heard an earlier point I made in that very direction. The state does not have authority to license marriage to begin with. It is a stolen authority, stolen from the people. But Judge Moore still has valuable things to say.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After a briefly chilly start, expect partly cloudy and mild weather for your Monday. Highs back into the upper 60s. Tonight, not as cool. Lows upper 40s. For Tuesday, a beautiful day. Lots of sunshine. Spring-like highs, lower 70s. Continue dry and warm through Wednesday. Did you know your car talks to you? Are you listening? All those beep vibrations and light-up icons are your car's way of communicating to help you be a safer driver. Learn more at mycardoeswhat.org. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Need more of your tax money back faster? EJPelton.com. Save time and money now. EJPelton.com. You wouldn't want to go to a dance by yourself, so why dance with the IRS alone? EJPelton.com. Get more of your money back faster now. EJPelton.com. For you and your business. EJ Pelton Tax Resolution and E-Filing Services. You earned it. Now keep more of your money. EJPelton.com. Offices in Brainerd and Saudi. EJPelton.com.
Yeah, I'm the tax man.
Severe Weather Awareness Week, the 28th through the 5th. P5 Preparedness has weather radios only $19.95. At P5 Preparedness, weather radios are only $19.95 for a limited time only and a limited quantity. You need to get there now. Weather radios, $19.95.
P5 Preparedness on East Brainerd between Gun Barrel and I-75. Look for the Green Army truck, 423-602-2175. Look for us on Facebook.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Hot News Talk 1240. Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in their latest debate getting in some swipes at their GOP rivals on CNN.
I don't intend to get into the gutter with whoever they nominate, but instead to lift our sights.
Bernie Sanders, while pushing for more mental health funds.
We are, if elected president, going to invest a lot of money into mental health. And when you watch these Republican debates, you know why.
Sanders won Sunday's main caucuses of the Michigan primaries tomorrow. There are 4 GOP races tomorrow. Yesterday, Marco Rubio won the Puerto Rico primary. Tributes pouring in for Nancy Reagan, who died yesterday.
Frank Thorwald was a special advisor and press secretary in the Reagan administration.
They were just the salt of the earth. They really cared about people.
She will be buried next to her husband, Ronald Reagan, at his presidential library later this week.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. Fox News. We report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. 3 students from 3 schools arrested in 3 different incidents. A student from East Ridge High School was arrested on Friday after authorities say he assaulted a teacher and then threatened to get a gun and shoot several people at the school. In the second incident, the sheriff's office says that there was a note found on the floor of a hallway at Washington Alternative School making violent threats. One suspect was arrested. And in the third case, a note was discovered on a bathroom wall in the girls' restroom at Udoa High School, and the suspect has been arrested in that case as well. A second suspect has been arrested in the Ocoee Street shootout, which injured a 14-year-old boy on February the 21st. Gary Cross had multiple warrants out for his arrest. He was finally hunted down by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. He was booked on outstanding warrants at the Hamilton County Jail. The first suspect, Dominique Cal, had already been in custody for several weeks following the broad daylight gun battle. Senators Lamar Alexander and David Perdue took a moment today to remember the legacy of former First Lady Nancy Reagan, who passed away. She was 94. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
Make sure you go to P5, the Prepper store on East Brainerd Road, but behind the Deuce and a Half truck as you're heading east, which is to say toward Appleton, toward the Atlantic coast. You'll see it there on the right. It has an aquaponics system that has lets you farm without earth and also have fish that you can eat in a system where each part feeds the other part. That's an aquaponics system at P5. Check that out. There are also prepper tools, multi-tools, severe weather gear, tactical gear, preparedness goods of all kinds, and books. There are many books there. Perhaps the best thing are classes held very often at P5, early startup classes on starting the prepper program, getting into prepping, and the like. Also, make sure that if you have any plumbing needs, you call Ray's Plumbing at 421-6341. Ray's Plumbing at 421-6341. I get my printing done at Advantage. Advantage got my homeschool newsletter to moms in a jiffy. Delivery was Friday, and I try to get out always on the first of the month. But I've got a terrific printer, and Advantage is a terrific mail house for getting me out on deadline, and that's Advantage Printing. The number is 629-1800. Call Alan Jones at Advantage Printing. I deal with Alan indirectly, and I'm very glad that he is making me the editor of the homeschool newsletter look good in front of all those hundreds of moms who get the Esprit newsletter. Call Advantage at 629-1800, 629-1800. There's a story in the Daily Mail about babies who have birth defects. Not only do modern people destroy baby girls with birth defects, but now in England, the NIH, the National Agency for Health, is proposing that women who have defective children, boys and girls, bring them to term so that the organs will be developed, and when the baby is destroyed, sometimes after birth, the organs can be used for the benefit of others. This is a story in the Daily Mail. NHS to harvest babies' organs ghoulish proposal, the headline says, gives mothers pregnant with damaged fetus an agonizing choice: abort the dying child or give birth so baby parts can be used for transplants. 230 babies died in England from anencephaly. These are slain yearly, that is to say. The two babies, it's hoped that 2 babies now were harvested for their organs, that maybe 100 babies will be allowed to mature in utero, so that when they're slain, they'll have more mature organs. That is a proposal in England. Last night, the proposal sparked an ethical debate, with one critic describing it as a ghoulish suggestion that would undermine public confidence in organ donation. Niaz Ahmed is proposing this program to have mothers to be propagandized into having mercy on others. Destroy your child, but not yet. Hold off. Let that baby mature, and then we will organize. We will harvest the organs, according to Dr. Hamad at St. James University Hospital in Leeds. We are looking at rolling it out as a viable source of organ transplantation nationally. Under the new proposals, mothers would give birth in the normal way, and once doctors had certified the infant dead, its vital organs would be removed. I should say her or his vital organs would be removed. However, a donation would not be raised when a woman was still deciding whether or not to have an abortion, right? Only after she's decided to kill the baby do you propose to delay the slaughter to harvest the kidney and the brain, the stomach, and nobody would be compelled to donate their baby's organs. Well, that's good. In some cases where donation has been agreed, babies will be certified brain dead, but their bodies kept alive by artificial ventilation. Surgeons could then remove organs from these so-called heartbeat babies when they are fresh, maximizing what can be used and the chance of a successful transplant. More than 7,000 people are currently on the organ waiting list, and 3 of them die every day. Of course, that's a market that has been subject to intervention, as it is in the United States. You have a ban on the sale of organ parts, and so since there's no market and you have to donate your parts on your death, there's no access to ready supply. At the moment, about 230 babies with anencephaly are slaughtered every year in Britain, according to the Daily Mail. Guidelines prevented most organ retrieval from babies under 2 months, but last year rules changed, enabling doctors to take organs from newborns with much greater ease with the parents' consent. In 2014, Teddy Halston became what was then Britain's youngest organ donor after dying just 100 minutes after birth. Teddy's parents were told their baby would be born with virtually no brain after their 12-week scan, but decided against abortion. His 2 kidneys and heart valves saved an adult's life. It's a ghoulish suggestion, says Dr. Trevor Stammers, director of bioethics at St. Mary's University, that can only undermine public confidence in transplantation, one of the greatest medical advances in my lifetime. The concept reduces the baby to nothing more than a utilitarian means to an end, a collection of spare parts, rather than respecting life for its own sake. Raiding the bodies of children born only for their organs will further tarnish the profession and could well lead to a broader decrease in the rates of organ donation. Truly something to think about. The story... Oh, I just wanted to mention quickly the story at Chattanooga about State Representative Andy Holt. He is pointing out something really interesting in a bill opposed by the camera raiders, the intersection camera raiders. The law states that Tennessee Code 55 Part 8 that only post-certified or state-commissioned law enforcement officers shall be authorized to review video evidence from a traffic light signal monitoring system and make a determination as to whether or not a violation has occurred. He's going to be asking an opinion from the state's attorney general, and because this is an abusive practice, post-certified state-commissioned law enforcement officers are not the first to look, and sometimes they're not involved at all in the determination of whether a ticket notice is sent. Since when do non-certified, out-of-state, and sometimes out-of-country employees, Representative Andy Holt says, have the legal authority to determine whether or not the law was violated. That would be like you or I saying, well, I don't think I ran the red light, so I'm just going to delete the evidence and not send it to police. How many times did these employees mess up? When were they given legal jurisdiction over the people of Tennessee? There's a story about a man who's had trouble with the law that I want to tell you about. And I want to tell you about this man in another case where an officer's amazing courage emerges in an appellate court decision. The story is about a man who's had a history of a bad history with police. His name is Miles November, and he lives in Chesterfield County, Virginia. He's 26 years old, and he's had trouble with cops. And among his past offenses, and what a story at WTVR.com calls a lengthy criminal record, he was found guilty for failing to stop immediately after getting into an accident where someone was hurt, and he was also found guilty of assaulting 3 Hanover County deputies when they pulled him over for a suspected DUI, and that was his second DUI in 5 years. And here, though, the story is that he was in a car accident, and though soaked with gasoline, he was tased. Guess what happened? Cop used his taser to light gasoline-soaked man on fire. That's according to a lawsuit filed in Richmond, probably a federal case. This is filed in Richmond City Circuit Court. He was in an accident in 2012, already 4 years ago now, in a Volkswagen sedan on a local highway. It turned over, and there were gasoline leaking all over the place. As a result of the fire ignited by Officer Swope, November suffered full thickness burns on approximately 86% of his body. Ryan Swope is the officer. Powell says November spent more than 6 months in the intensive care burn unit in Virginia Commonwealth University Medical Center, where he contracted septic blood poisoning and underwent 35 surgeries, including a tracheostomy due to respiratory issues and kidney failure. For many months, he was completely unable to feed himself, clothe himself, stand up or walk, and was even unable, without significant assistance, to sit up in his bed. Even now, a year after Swope's use of the taser engulfed him in flames, he has limited use of his arms and legs. Almost his whole body is horribly scarred and disfigured, the complaint says. Well, at the appellate court level in the U.S. 6th District Court of Appeals, there's an opinion about a police officer in Southfield, Mississippi, Keith Bierberek, who was courageously helping a woman who had run out of, who lost battery power on the side of the street. And he did it by ramming his SUV into her car. And the story says she argued with him, claimed that there had been no school. The woman was being cited for failing to stop for a bus. That there had been no school bus, accused him of racism, and refused to accept the ticket, letting it instead drop to the ground. Says the appeals ruling, Officer Bierbeck returned to his patrol car, a large SUV, and drove away. But McCarty, who had turned off her ignition but not her headlights, had accidentally drained her car battery and could not restart the car. Well, there she was. 20 minutes later, the officer comes back. Seeing her in the same spot apparently angered the officer, so he took action to remove her and her grandchildren. McCarty noticed that Bierbeck had first pulled beside her and then got behind and hit her car so hard that her grandkids came out of their seats. Says a September filing from McCarty's attorney, Diana McLean, according to M Live. After Bierbeck initially ran the car full of children, he, quote, waited for traffic to clear and then got out of his car and approached McCarty's car, yelling that he could have them killed. He could have killed them, and it would have been his fault, the filing says. But that wasn't enough. Bierbeck then got back into his car and rammed McCarty a second time, pushing her car into a nearby gas station, narrowly missing oncoming motorists and a row of gas pumps. The entire time, according to the record in the court, McCarty's vehicle was in park. One can only imagine the mental smashing, chaotic scene that unfolded as a police SUV cruiser forced a parked car into a gas station parking lot by ramming it from the rear. Then he sped off, and he made no mention of the incident. The next day, The woman went to Southfield Police Department to file a complaint. However, she was dissuaded from doing that, noting, and the officer told her that the dash cam video of the encounter had been deleted by Bierbrek, the officer. Naturally, McCarty filed a lawsuit against Bierbrek and the department, but Bierbrek appealed, claiming he was protected by law enforcement immunity while performing his job. The Court of Appeals said that the officer's actions shock the conscience and rise to a level of gross negligence. In short, without consent or even warning, he violently rammed a woman's car with his much larger SUV, needlessly damaging her car and propelling it into traffic, endangering the safety of the occupants, which included 3 small children. He then fled the scene of the accident he had just caused and destroyed evidence that might have proven his motivation or malicious intent. In fact, this would be shocking and criminal behavior if committed by an ordinary citizen. Well, there are reasons perhaps not to call the police. And if you're a black person, you might be even more skeptical about calling the police than I, an Anglo-Saxon with a white European background, actually from Switzerland. And that would be maybe to your advantage to find an alternative. And I think there are alternatives to bothering the state and its agents with your trolls. And we're going to see more and more of these developments. Now, here I'm going to tell you about an application for your smartphone that will solve, I think, many of the problems that we have when we invite a police officer to our house or to our accident or to our problem. Officers come to your house and they shoot your dog. They come and they fire at you and your son and your neighbor. People are arrested, they're destroyed, they're maimed when they engage members of the state, the officers of the state, in their problem. Right. So if you have a problem, make sure that you call someone who is really empathetic toward you, who maybe even knows you. And that would be possibly by using an app. And here's a story from truthvoice.com about an app that's designed by 4 men. Their names are Virgil Vaduva, who's the founder of the app in question, and Dave Neely, web design, Milan Argawal, Sachin Tibrewal. These are 4 people who are involved in building a platform that is suitable for Android and iOS. Now, I say I'm going to tell you about this app, but I'm not going to recommend right now that you get it. It hasn't been vetted yet. My news director, Russell Stroud, here at the radio station, who is our tech expert, says, well, these are coming, and you probably will want to buy or obtain this app from a store, because once it's in a store, it has been tried by hundreds of other people. So don't be a guinea pig for an application, downloading an application until you let other people go first, right? More courageous people than you. And so Cell 411 is the name of it, and it allows you to have calls for help to people you know, and other people who are in the Cell 411 network. You can decide how you want an alert to go out. It can go just to people near you. It can be just to friends. Say you have a flat tire and you find that your spare is also flat. Well, you can have a friend come who's a member of that network through the Cell 411 app, and there he is. This new mobile app has been taking the world of activism by storm, the story says, and police don't like it. It's an app created by activists for activists, but also for anyone who may find himself or herself in an emergency, who would rather call trusted friends than state actors. It allows issuers to issue various alerts to trusted groups, family members, neighbors, and friends. The issue of addressing emergencies without police involvement has come, this story says, to the forefront of the police brutality debate, as many cases have shown police responding to emergencies and shooting dogs, killing suicidal individuals, and often not helping those calling for help, but rather harming them or even killing them. The smartphone app will allow you to create private groups or public groups. There's even a part of this program which lets you be kind of on patrol, you then open your application to people in general, not just your select group, but anybody. If you're kind of in the patrol mode, and so anybody in your area is being assaulted or having a flat tire or is wanting some help in caring for an injured person, perhaps, if you're in that proper mode, you have time and means, you can assist the problem. The best thing about this app is that it is completely free, and the option of allowing users to create public groups that anyone could join is very powerful and offers communities the option to self-police. So see, there you go. Self-policing is how we were founded in our country. We didn't have police departments really until about the 1850s. Before that, there were no police. Everybody took upon himself the policing function, right? The peacekeeping, catch the crook function. Elderly people can use the app to notify all family members if they have a need. Activists observing police activity or police abuse can notify all activists in an area and stream video to all their friends, because that's one of the functions, is that if you're in a situation where your phone might be confiscated or damaged by a state actor in anxiety over his personal position, you stream the video out. It doesn't stay on your phone. Volunteer firefighter departments could encourage their communities to use the app as a free dispatch option. School children could send alerts if they're being bullied or abused in school. And family members could send alerts when vehicles break down and they need urgent help. You can get this app at getcell411.com. That's getcell, GETCELL411.com. Again, our news director, our tech expert, Russell, here at AM 1240 suggests that you don't download it yet, but that you just wait till it's in a store, after which time it will have been vetted by hundreds of other people. And if it is, let's say it's malware, right? There's potential, since you don't know the men I named there, that you don't know who they are, you don't know where they're from. What if this is all fake, right? That's averted and obviated by letting others try the app first, and then when it's in a store, then you know it's almost surely harmless against you and serves the function for which it has been created, and does not have a secret back entrance. Cell 411 allows you to take ownership of your own actions, activities, and alerts. And the neat thing about it is that it's decentralized, right? There's not a central repository of authority and force, the police that's being called upon, but a decentralized body of people, some of whom may be licensed to carry concealed, right? People who are wearers of arms and who wear their pistol not just for self-protection, but for the protection of women and children, right? The main parties that men should be concerned about would be women and children, and so you can have this systems like this, and I think it's very exciting. We don't have to call perhaps for the abolition of policing as some do. We can just wait for the tech sector to continue developments in this direction. And then there will be fewer and fewer calls to police departments as intelligent people with smartphones handle their needs themselves, and stop crime, catch criminals. Think about the fun if you're a member of this Cell 411. You and your friends are chasing after a bank robber, right? Not that you have to, because usually chases are needless anymore. We have satellite data. We have other kinds of data where a high-speed chase is hardly ever necessary. It's hardly ever necessary, but it's very dramatic, and we understand officers enjoy taking part in those. That's what they live for, the excitement of the chase and the confrontation. These are the highlights of the police career. They make all the dreary tedium and the waiting worthwhile. And so if we have an app like this, you can save the officer the trouble, and maybe make his career a little bit less boring, and maybe over time, police departments will fade from disuse, right? The calls will be fewer, emergencies fewer, and finally, city halls and city governments will say, well, let's cut the staffing a bit because we're not really proving ourselves as useful as we once were. And finally, you'll have town corporations such as Chattanooga that will say, well, okay, we're just getting out of the policing business. Probably, which will go out first, the policing business or the schooling business? Well, probably counties, since we have a county school system, probably county schools will be the first things that will be voted out. Probably not in your lifetime, probably not in mine, but something to look forward to, where the marketplace, the sharing economy, right? The individual do-it-yourselfer economy that is very American, a sense of character, I think, lost in the past decades under the burden of the modern state. But I think it's there still in many ways. And whether policing or education, we will get back what belongs to us here in local economy, here in hopefully a rising free market. That's what I want for you, my listener, is free market. And what I hope for you is that you'll desire liberty. I want you to see that liberty is something that you have to work for. You have to want it. If you don't want it, you won't fight for it. You won't seek it. And we have lost the flavor of liberty. We have lost the desire for it, lost the taste for it in many ways. But I still have a desire for it. My name is David Tulis, and I do thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes of your time today. I really appreciate that. Now, I've got some things I want you to hear, some really important announcements. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
MLS 2239. What would you do with all that cash? Listen up, y'all. Ben Phillips here, Home Rate Mortgage, 805-9100. $1,200. That's how much we just put back in a Saudi Daisy family's pocket per month. All they did was pick up the phone. 805-9100. That's 805-9100. Get that quick quote now. 805-9100. HomeRateMortgage.com. MLS 2239. Do you want to achieve the American dream in 2016? Listen up, y'all. I'm Ben Phillips with Home Rate Mortgage, 805-9100. We just helped a police officer purchase his first home in East Brainerd. Now he's grilling and chilling on his back deck. The American dream. You could achieve it with no money down options. Why wouldn't you call? 805-9100, HomeRateMortgage.com.
Severe Weather Awareness Week, the 28th through the 5th. P5 Preparedness has weather radios only $19.95. At P5 Preparedness, weather radios are only $19.95 for a limited time only and a limited quantity. You need to get there now. Weather radios, $19.95.
P5 Preparedness on East Brainerd between Gun Barrel and I-75. Look for the Green Army truck, 423-602-2175. Look for us on Facebook.
When pipes drip and rot the floor, Ray sends all leaks straight to the door. To fix my pipes, he sure does plumb. Unclog my John, make shop hum. It's good old Ray, his wrench has fun. 421-6341. Your plumbing's busted, here Ray come. Call 421-6341. In crawl space low, he does yet stoop. Fixing pipe and woe to poop. Ray's the plumber, call him now. With coin but few, he'll please and how. 421-6341. It's good old Ray, a beam of sun. 421-6341. 421-6341.
Our house in the middle of our street.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at SabrinaRealty.com.
Our house in the middle of our street.
You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host